Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Thursday, May 24th, 2018 at 12:32 in the afternoon Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern Time. So as to avoid confusion with Australia. Now today, Gayle Crabtree, who is a magnificent individual, a YouTuber, who I have been watching for probably now, gosh, 2.5 years, possibly. She put up one of these tag videos. Now, sometimes these things are like, but this one's kind of fun, and given that it was done by somebody who I have come to have a huge amount of respect for, and admiration for, I thought I'd do that, particularly since she quote tagged unquote me in her video. So here we go. It's kind of vacation tag, questions related to vacations and things. What will you do for summer vacation 2018? Well, it turns out that my son and I are going to go to Durham, England, for 2 weeks. We're going to leave here June 5th and come back June 19th. For me, it's kind of a pilgrimage sort of thing to the cathedral and St. Cuthbert's Shrine and that sort of thing. It is, to me, one of the holiest places I have ever been in and had a palpable sense of the divine. And so we're going to go there for 2 weeks. We're staying at the Radisson Blu Hotel. Hope they put us on the riverside. They ought to, because I've stayed there 5 times in the last 2 years. This will be the fifth time I've stayed there in the last 2 years. Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then in late September and then into October, I'm going to go take a coach tour through Eastern and Central Europe, starting from Vienna. And that'll last, I think that's going to last 17 days. These coach tours look like they can be quite fun, and I've always wanted to go back. Well, I wanted to see the part that the commies wouldn't let you see when I was there in 1971, and I've always wanted to go back to Berlin. So, and anything else along the way, that's just great. I want to see Prague and Budapest, and and I've never been to Poland, and I think there's actually going to be we're spending about 5 days in Poland. So, yeah. So that's my plans. If you could travel with any 3 YouTubers, who would it be and why? Well, if you're traveling with somebody is a very, very, it's like short of buying a house and getting married to somebody. It's kind of a really major decision, because if you're traveling with the wrong person, it's going to be a miserable, wretched experience and a wretched time. At least for you. It might not be for the other person, but it is for you if you find you've made the incorrect decision about that. It is, if you find somebody you can travel with and not want to rip each other's head off or insides out, you hold on to that person, maybe not marry him, maybe not live with them, but you hold on to that person as a friend. That's for sure. Having said that, it's going to sound like I'm weaseling out a bit because my son has a YouTube channel, although he doesn't put much stuff up there at all on it. And my grandson has a YouTube channel, and he does put a moderate amount of material up there. It's all mostly related to video gaming. And I have traveled with my son, and that's no problem at all. If we get pissed off at each other, we just tell each other we're pissed off about something, and then my grandson, I mean, I've never traveled with him, but I'm assuming that since apples don't fall too far from the trees, So those would be two. Gayle Crabtree was nice enough to say she'd travel with me, and I think she ought to be, think carefully. Be careful what you might wish for, Gayle. But no, I think I've met her. I've met Gayle. I've met her husband. I've met Tomlin. So I do think we could certainly amble across, this world God's given us and not have too many problems. The essence of traveling, of course, is to travel hopefully, and there's going to be things that happen unexpectedly, and then you just have to sort of, well, we'll get through this, that sort of thing. This isn't to say that every now and again people are going to get annoyed with each other. My problem when I get annoyed with somebody is I tend to bottle it up. Rather than just speaking right out, having my say then, I'll let it sit, and then I sort of accumulate. And then when I do want to say something, then I tend to unload. And that is not a good habit to have, Joe. No, it isn't. I have a friend in England, Tony Pincham, and we have traveled together. And yes, the first year it went absolutely fine. Last year there was a bit of a problem, but it turned out that in retrospect he was having a very, very difficult time in his life at that time with some things just relating to what was happening in his life. He's spoken about that on his channel, and I was coming off this love affair, well, not coming off, but just still, well, that was still sort of ongoing with Sam Whelan down in Australia, and so I was just not the ideal time for both of us to be doing this sort of stuff, but he's come out the other side of that, and I'm not nearly as messed up about Sam as I was then. And then there's a fella out in Seattle. Well, he's not going to be in Seattle long. He's going to move to Tucson. His channel name is Hyperbolic Grind. Also sometimes referred to here as Tony BZ. I'm fairly certain we could travel together just fine because, we have the same off-the-wall sense of humor. And, I mean, we get each other on a roll. And frankly, it's hard for other people to be around us when we do that. But it's a lot of fun for us. So that's a bit of a weasel answer on that. I mean, there are a couple of Australian YouTubers I'd like to meet. I collaborated on a movie with Dan Fry back in 2014. I'd certainly like to meet him. I tried try to watch pretty much everything a fellow named Dean Caswell, whose channel name is In the Trenches with Kaz, puts up. He's out of West Sydney. Actually, my honorary nephew, Ed B., has a channel. I'm sure we could travel together just fine. He and his wife Chantel and son Ed, affectionately called E4. And yeah, I think we could travel together fine. Best travel hack, and then there's a second question, worst travel hack. Now, I don't know about the hack. The best travel hack was when I could finally, get into my retirement money, and so I could start traveling again. That was between 2001 and, when things really got tight. And then to 2016, I had not taken a trip. But once I could get access into the retirement accounts without tax penalty, I could start traveling. So that's, the ability to travel at all, I guess, would be a hack, I guess. The worst travel hack would be, oh gosh, this isn't really a hack. This is just an arrangement I made. Well, it wasn't the initial arrangement. It was the upsell at the rental car counter that was the bad experience. And that was in 2016, and when I went to the UK, and at the Euro or Europe car counter at Manchester Airport. And this guy, I had rented a standard transmission Fiat 500. Standard transmission. Manual just manual transmission. This guy said, well, you got a little four-wheel drive, and then you can get, it's automatic, and it's got this navigation thing, and I thought, okay. That was the wrong decision. First of all, the car ended up being bigger than what I needed for over there, and bigger for where I was driving over there, and cost about another 350 pounds for the 2 weeks I was over there. So that was wrong, Joe. In the sense of a travel hack that was good was by the end of that trip, I had finally learned how to use the navigation on my phone. Because I only had the phone for like 2 months. I hadn't learned how to do any of that navigation stuff. So I guess that would be, one of the best travel hacks, in addition to getting enough money to do it. Most memorable vacation as a kid. Well, we went to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for a week every summer in either the last week in July or the first week in August. And when I was young, talking like 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5. My dad's brother and his family went, and my dad's sister and her husband went. Uncle Jack would have gone too, but he's dead. And we'd go up to Hessel, Michigan, and we stayed at a place called, well, there were two groups of rental cabins next to each other. One was owned by a guy named, his last name was Buckwalter, and I think it was spelled B-U-C-K, not B-U-C-H. And then the place where we ended up staying most often was a guy named Sorrow, S-O-R-R-O-W. And I'll tell you, he looked exactly like his name. This guy looked like he was, like morose and is depressed and borderline nasty. He looked like Abraham Lincoln if Abraham Lincoln were a real mean motherfucker. Maybe he was. I don't know. He had an insane wife. Well, he had a civil war on his plate. And, uh, but when I was 5, uh, and that was in 1957, and that was when they were building the Mackinac Bridge, and we saw the bridge towers with the suspension cables strung between them. As we rode the ferry, the largest of the Straits of Mackinac ferries, called Vacation Land, across the Straits of, from Mackinac City to St. Ignace. And I remember seeing that, and there's a picture of me actually standing at the reel looking at that. I've got my little life jacket on, and I'm looking at this. You see the bridge. I mean, yeah, I'd say that was memorable, because it was really also, it was the last time we went up there till it was 9, because my mother went back to school to finish her degree, and it took her 4 summers, and so we didn't go back up there till 1961 when I was 9, and after that, I think we went back up there. Well, I went back up there till I was, I think, 3 more times. And at that time we were going to Drummond Island, and the then I got a job in the summer when I was 13, and so I didn't go with them anymore. That was the last I'd gone up there with my family. So those are always very memorable, because I love that area. To this day, I love that area. Vacation nightmare you laughed about later. Well, I don't know. It's hard to claim. Nightmares. I tend to take things kind of in stride up to a point. But there were, at least for 2 years in a row, I think it was 1983 and 1984. I'd rent a place on the Outer Banks the week before Memorial Day, or the 2 weeks before Memorial Day. When it was still sort of moderately low season rates. And obviously oceanfront. Obviously, there's no point doing it if you're not going to go do oceanfront, is there? And this would be one of my most memorable moments. That was the first time I'd set foot into the Atlantic Ocean, let alone seen it. But I wasn't a kid. I was I was 31. So I rented this house, and of course, you have to have people come down with you, don't you? I mean, the place slept like 9, or something. So we had a group of friends that went down with us, and it was great fun. And I think the second year in this happened in '84. One of the friends, the daughter of the main sort of oldest friend, she was living up in Boston. She was an attorney. She was living up in Boston, and she was involved with some dude from Harvard or MIT or something. And so she brought him along. Okay, that's fine. And this guy's a real dick. I mean, he was a dick in and of himself, but he was especially a dick because he fucked around with my dogs. He teased them. Wasn't overtly mean, but he was messing with them. I told him, I said, "Don't do that. Don't mess with my dogs. Don't do that." Fine. Yeah, right. So we had Capricorn and we had Prometheus. Capricorn was about a year and a half older than Prometheus. Prometheus was Capricorn's son. Capricorn just basically ignored this guy. After a couple of times, he just ignored the guy. Prometheus, on the other hand, being a little human dog, since we had gotten him at 6 weeks rather than 8 weeks, he was completely puzzled because he had never encountered a human being that treated him that way before. Because he was a little human. Being a little human, he wouldn't treat another human that way. So, one afternoon, everybody had gone out except Paul and myself. And the dogs were there, it was just the dogs and Paul and myself. I don't know, Eric, we had a friend of ours we brought down named Eric. Eric may have gone outside, gone on the beach or someplace too. I think these other people had run over across the sound back to get some sort of seafood or some damn thing, across the bridge back onto the mainland. And so Paul and I were, we were kind of distracted by various activities. And we suddenly realized that we hadn't seen Pro for quite a while. Now, Capricorn was just lying on the, floor next to us. And so I went looking, and he was in this daughter's, the young woman's bedroom, where she was staying with this boyfriend of hers from Harvard, and on the pillow of the guy from Harvard, on the Harvard guy's pillow, was a nice, big, steaming dog turd. And lying on the daughter's side, next to this, was a very, very pleased-looking Prometheus. And I said, "You're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. You are such a good dog. We love you so much." And he did follow us back out into the living room, followed me back out in the living room, where Capricorn was and Paul was. Well, so these guys come back, from, they've got their seafood. They're all, doing, they're getting ready to have this big feast, fix this big feast and everything, Yeah, I mean, I paid for the house, but I ate really, really well that week because I didn't really have to pay for anything else. So this guy eventually wanders back to the bedroom. Well, he comes in, he's kind of shaking, shaking. He says, "Your dog took a shit on my pillow." I said, "You kept fucking with him, didn't you? So he took a shit on your pillow." He was in the car within about 3 hours and headed back north. So was that a nightmare? Oh, I don't know. I mean, it could have been, but wasn't. Oh, he deserved that. A vacation nightmare that you laugh. Oh, I did that. Most you've ever paid for gas and where? Well, I think the most I've ever paid for gas was like about $3.83. And that was probably during, when the gas prices were really high there back in the late 70s. Well, no, the late 70s, they didn't get that high. But I would say sort of like in the 80s at some point. I've seen gas prices over $4 in Chicago. I think I misplanned once when I was driving back and forth to Chicago, and I ended up having to pay like $3.83 in Well, it was in northwest Indiana because the gas taxes aren't so high over there as they are in Illinois. Um, Dream vacation car. Well, we did an awful lot of fun traveling about the South in this 1986 F-350 crew cab with a full 8-foot bed, dually. F-350 dually with the crew cab and 8-foot bed. This thing was a real beast. Had the diesel engine. Of course, the blue paint peeled off because it was from that bad batch of paint that Ford, put on these trucks. And so I ended up just buying a can of royal blue Rust-Oleum and just painting the thing with a brush, which gave it a fairly distinctive look. But it was a great car to travel in because, you could take 6 people, total of 6 people, and in the back, you sleep in the back, you sleep in the back seat, it had bench seats, it was great. Yeah, we went down to South Carolina and North Carolina that many, 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 many times, and hauled trailers up to Michigan to camping trailers. Had an old beat up, I can't remember the name of it, but it was just a dual, just a 2-tired trailer, for camping. We'd go up to the Michigan state parks and that. It was great. And then another car to travel in, if you're just traveling on vacation without actually trying to trailer camp, was I had a Mercedes 1985 Mercedes 300 SD that I bought used with 88,000 miles on it. And I drove that. I bought that in 91. 91 or 90? 90. And I kept that until fall of 2000. It just became too expensive to maintain properly. Beautiful. I mean, just a dream car to drive long. You could drive 14 hours in that thing and get out of there and not feel like you've been beaten up. And I drove that thing to Boston like 3 times. I drove that thing to Charleston, South Carolina. We're done nonstop here. Those are 14-hour drives from Columbus. Twice, to Charleston. It's great. Going over the mountains, you'd get like 45 miles a gallon. And Prometheus loved it. I always took him down with me when after Capricorn died. I always took him down with me to my mother's. And he just loved riding that back seat. They had a sunroof. He'd open the sunroof and he'd stand up there on the console and stick his head out the, nose out the window there, or the top hole. That was great. Worst place where you dropped or almost dropped your camera. I have been very, very fortunate, and I've not dropped any of the Leicas my Leicas are the Pentaxes. The SLRs, Pentaxes. I've never dropped any of the Leicas, either M cameras or SLRs. Now I have dropped my Canon 320 HS. I think 3 times. The first time was on a hardwood floor there at church, because I'd been videoing one of the art exhibits at church, and this woman says, they're made for that. They're meant to be dropped. I'm thinking, you're an idiot. But it worked. The other 2 times were on, carpet, sort of like, from about 1.5 to 2 feet. So no trouble there. But I've been, well, my rule is if I put the camera on, the good camera's on. First thing goes on is that strap. Even when I'm changing the SD card, I have that strap around my neck. Always. That's the first thing my dad taught me when he started letting me handle the good cameras. First thing you do is you put that strap around your neck. Always. It's like, It's like never put your finger in the trigger guard unless you're ready to fire. Never point the gun at anything you don't wish to destroy or kill. And you're sure of what it is. It's not some guy's cow that looks like a deer, turkey, or your brother's hand that looks like a turkey. You can travel anywhere in the universe, wherever to be. Well, I'm very happy here on God's green earth. Thanks. I don't know. I mean, in terms of places here in this world, I'd like to go. I definitely want to go down to Australia at some point. I've got some people. I've got people down there I'd like to meet. I know people I've done. Well, I know of. Well, I'm in touch with people down there I want to meet. See, I have met one of them. I don't think he's going to want to see me again. Basically, I may go back to Europe here after this trip next year, or this coming fall, rather. But on the other hand, maybe I won't. My intention is to basically go back once or twice a year to the United Kingdom until I get physically unable to do that. And then after that, I can, I'll just start driving around the United States, rent places and just drive around and stay. Or if that matter, you could fly, I guess. Yeah, no, I don't. I'll stay here on Earth. Thank you very much. And so all you Moonies and your Marsies and yeah, God bless you, Elon Musk, but I'm not going to go to Mars, even if I was able to. So that's the tag that Gayle Crabtree put up today, and I want to say, I guess then I'll say bye-bye, YouTube.